Good evening. Welcome to tonight's episode of Here's My Two Cents with me, your boy, Keith, 2 Cent Sanders. We got a lot to go over tonight. A lot's been going on. A lot of the same has been going on, but Purple Pen night. We all know what happens when it's Purple Pen night. Things are wild. One of these days, maybe after the vote, maybe after we take back the House, maybe possibly when we take the Senate, knock on wood. We'll get into that more here in a little bit, but it's Purple Pen night every night because your groceries cost a lot more money. The gas costs a lot more money. Your money's worth a lot less money. They want to keep saying that you've had a raise, which you haven't. And then the real wages, we're not going to talk about that. We don't need to talk about that because while your money supposedly has gone up 5%, it's gone down only 8%. I don't buy that. I don't buy really any numbers that they give us, which reminds me, Juan, you don't know this. Today's a big day. I'm going to run for Congress. And let me tell you why. I'm going to be a one-term congressperson because here's why. I'm going to go there. I'm going to find out everything that's going on. I'm going to tell everybody. And then even the people who backed me, they're not going to want me to go back because they're like, this guy's crazy. You can't go to DC and just tell everybody everything that's going on. I want people to know where the money's going. I want people to know who's in bed with who. I want people to know what's going on with these agencies. I want people to know what's going on. And then everybody's going to be like, this guy is crazy. We cannot have this guy in office. This guy is a crazy person. Juan, do you support me? I'm running. I'm going to go there. Juan is shaking his head. Don't we need somebody to just go do that? Can we just have somebody go to Washington, D.C. and be like, all right, for real, here's where the money went. And by the way, today's answer is we don't know. We don't know where that money went. And I'm here to tell you because I'm a representative and I know this stuff. Like if it's not classified, obviously I wouldn't say anything that's classified. But I mean, I'm like half kidding. But I'm sort of just half kidding. I don't know. I'm going on a rant. That's kind of what I do on the show anyway. But we got some big things to talk about. I just got back from a nice trip. I told you guys going into the weekend. And I'm not, let's go back here a minute. I do want to run for something, Juan. We're going to be running for something here pretty soon. You're going to be my campaign manager. I hope you know that. Juan, the man, the myth, the legend behind the scenes there. He's helping out up there in New Hampshire. I happen to be right next door to him in Vermont. And what's really funny is if you know what Vermont and New Hampshire look like, they look like the flipped version of each other. And so my wife was holding up a little, it was a carving of Vermont, but she was holding it upside down. And me and her friend were like, well, that's New Hampshire. And she's like, what do you mean? And we turned over and go, all right, now that's Vermont. So if he gets it, anybody from the Northeast, you know. So we went up there. I got to play tourist in my own home. It was rather surreal for a lot of reasons. I got to see my mom. If you haven't seen your mom in a long time, go see her. Give your mom a call. Give your dad a call. That's your little PSA message from me. I got my soul refilled. I got to see mom, got some home cooking from mom. My children sat around her table with a fire going in her little farmhouse. I mean, come on. I mean, don't you want that? Give your mom a call. She might not have a farm table or anything, but give your mom a call. I really enjoyed it. And my mom watches this every week. Mom, I love you. It was really great to see you. How wholesome is your boy? This is my first ad campaign, Juan. How wholesome he is. He's crazy and he's wholesome. I'll get everybody. I'll get the crazy folk like me, and I'll get the people like a little heartfelt story now and again. Let me tell you about Vermont. It's a wild place. It is wild. I mean, you got New Hampshire right next door where Juan is, which is desperately trying to be conservative. Am I right, Juan? Folks are really trying. They're really trying there. Surrounded by deep, deep blue with Massachusetts and then Vermont next to it. So Vermont is leftover boomer hippies that escaped from everywhere. They all sort of congregated there in Vermont and they were living peacefully up there, smoking their marijuana and not really bothering a soul, but very crunchy, very granola. And that's what I grew up in. And you kind of knew that they were very liberal. They were definitely Democrats, and Republican was the R word up there. I wouldn't necessarily say that you had to be worried if you were a Republican up there back in the 90s, but they love their Bernie and they love their programs. They love their programs. It was reasonable. It was somewhat reasonable. I went through junior high and high school up there. All I knew was the idea of being a Democrat. All I knew was that Republicans were the bad guys. I wouldn't say that the Republicans were evil, but it was like if you found out someone was a Republican, like, ugh, you're a Republican? Ugh. But you were still invited over. They weren't going to call you names and freak out and key your car, or at least you weren't worried that was going to happen. Then I went to college in upstate New York to a technical school and that wasn't very political at all. Again, early 2000s at this point. That school has since given an honorary doctorate to one of the founding members of BLM. So I found that a little bit strange. That was up in New York. And then I go down south and I get exposed to really Republicans for the first time. And I made some joke about George W. Bush at the time, and I kind of got looked at sideways, especially since I was in Texas. And I said, oh, everybody doesn't think exactly the same way. So me being the open-minded person I am, I started to listen, and then lo and behold, I popped out the other side of conservative and have gotten further, more conservative. Definitely fiscally, I would say that I think you guys have kind of figured out that socially I'm a live and let live, which I think is kind of the most conservative way that you can be. You do you, I'll do me. You stay on your side of the fence, I'll stay on mine, right? I got Juan nodding his head up and down. If you're nodding your head up and down too, give me a comment, give me a like. So I'm back to Vermont. I know I digest, but I take you on a journey. I go up to Vermont, show my family. I used to live here. A friend of mine lived here, and I used to play basketball over here. It's fun. You're probably reminiscent stuff like that too. And it was fun. We got to do a lot of really good stuff. Let's talk about the good parts of Vermont. Vermont is gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever been. It's truly gorgeous. It's just clean. It's very, very clean. And I got to get nice, clean, non-humidity, very low humidity, nice, cool air, beautiful time. It's beautiful. It truly is. Vermont is beautiful. What has Vermont become? Wow. I had a Trump shirt that was a sequins one. You might have seen it on my TikToks, where if it goes up this way, it's an American flag. And if it goes this way, it's a Trump. And I was going to kind of wear it just to kind of see if I got any looks. I never did. Whoa. I never did. Let me tell you why. Again, it's not what I remembered when I was a kid, where pretty much everyone's a Democrat. But if you knew a Republican, you were still going to be okay. You can still come over. Now, the virtue signaling has been turned up to 100. The virtue signaling I have never seen anywhere, and I've been to California many a time. The virtue signaling, case in point, I saw more Ukrainian flags in the state of Vermont than I will ever see for the rest of my life combined. It was easily 10-1, most likely 20-1 Ukrainian to American flags. Ukrainian. First of all, I would give you $100 if you could find 10 people who could point to Ukraine on a map. First of all. Next, I found it a bit ironic that you live in a country that protects your right, not grants you your right, protects your right to fly the flag of another nation, but you're so embarrassed by the country that protects that right. You're so embarrassed by them that you won't fly that flag. You see the irony there? I love it when I see folks go on and on about how terrible this country is. And they can do that because they're in this terrible country. Now I always tell them, a guy, go over to the Middle East. Go see how you fare there. Go to another country. Go see how you fare and fly somebody else's flag there. Fly their flag upside down. Burn it. Go see how that is for you. You can express these things, and I want you to express these things, but why can't you have a little pride in the country that has had men and women die to make sure that your rights to bash the country still exist? I know it's an oxymoron. I mean, I'm the type of guy, I don't ever want to see the American flag burned, but yeah, if you're burning the American flag, as long as you're not, putting people in harm's way, you're legally protected to do that. And I swore an oath to protect your right to burn the flag. And if we come to a day where you can't do that anymore, we've all done it for nothing. Right? Do you kind of see the paradox of that? I don't want to see you burn the flag, but I'm going to protect your right to do it. Meanwhile, you got the left who says that we're the fascists. I don't know if that's a word. Is that a word that gets taken down here on TikTok? Or I'm sorry, it does on TikTok, but I don't know about here on YouTube. Anyway, fascists. Should I talk around it? We'll say fascists tonight. Maybe they'll take us down. I don't know. We're the fascists, right? We're going to be the dictatorial candidates that we're putting up there, and we're going to shut down the freedoms, and we're going to be authoritarian, and we're going to have the autocrats. I look up this definition weekly because I'm like, they keep calling us fascist. You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. And I'm like, which side wants the autocrats making all the decisions for us? Which side wants to have a top-down approach and telling you how to live your life? Which side doesn't want certain people being heard and wanting them shut down? I'm like, the gaslighting is insane, because truly, I know a lot of people use that word, kind of like to use the word narcissist way too much, but the gaslighting truly is, they keep telling you something that isn't true until you feel so damn crazy that you just eventually believe it. And I really think that's what's going on with them constantly saying fascism. But anyway, let's go back to Vermont. The 10-1, 20-1 Ukrainian flags, that was shocking. Next, it was, mind you, in a state of about 100,000 people that might have a couple hundred African American people living there. They had BLM signs everywhere. I'm glad you support the African American community, but do you support that organization anymore? Are you aware of where the money went? Are you standing by the violence that was conducted in the name of BLM, the organization? Or are you truly to support the black man and woman, to support minorities? Is that what you're doing? I don't know. Maybe I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but it was everywhere. And maybe you support folks, but have you denounced what the organization was? Do you understand what they did? Do you know that they were used as a tool to further divide the nation in an election year? I mean, you could see they spike every 4 years and never greater than in 2020 as a tool to get people scared. Do you still support that? Well, I saw one car had printed out a sheet of paper like it was an old dot matrix. You remember those printers? It said Black Lives Matter, and they had to tape it to the back of their window. Look at my virtue. Look at my virtue. I'm virtue signaling. I'm like, what? I couldn't believe it. It was printed out and put on the back to go with the Ukrainian flags, to go with the BLM signs everywhere. Okay, I'm glad you're expressing your right to freedom of speech. I'm not the fascist. I want you to go ahead and put your point of view out there. But is this really what you support? Do you support that organization, which is really coming to light was a big fraud? Or are you truly trying to support folks? And if you are, maybe you are. Maybe you are. I don't know. I'm not going to side motive to people. You know me, the the oppressive person that I am. Next, I went to my alma mater to show my kids, hey, your old man went to school here. And the murals they had painted on the side, I couldn't believe it, on the side of the school. And you got to remember, I live down here in Florida, where just tonight I read an article about how the State Board of Education has voted unanimously such that the whole, I'm not even going to say what they want you to say. It's the Parental Rights and Education Bill. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's the Parental Rights and Education Bill, where it bans instruction to K through 8, up to 8-year-olds, about sexual orientation and gender. The elected officials have said, as they represent folks, we're not going to teach about sexual identity and gender identity to children 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Each school. Now, just tonight, it passed unanimously for the State Board of Education that if you give intentional instruction, and I just read this, in the classroom, you could lose your license. Why? Because people want you to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. That's what we want in class. What they're going to run around and say is, oh, if I've got a picture of my husband on my desk, I can't talk about that. Yes, you can. Just like Sally can talk about her husband, Bob. Hey, who's that? That's my husband. Oh, hey, I didn't know you could marry men. Yeah, you should probably talk to your parents about that. Let's get back to 2 + 2. Done. We don't need intentional instruction. We need you to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic. I didn't even know my teachers' first names. I don't know. I didn't know nothing about them. They were there to teach and to discipline. I'm sorry, which I don't think exists in schools anymore either. But anyway, I digest. So we're in Vermont. The virtue signaling is through the roof. And I'm taking you through all of this for a reason. People live so differently, and they live in bubbles. Vermont is not a large swath. It's not a huge population, but it is a sample of what could happen when folks live in an echo chamber. You have people printing out Black Lives Matter on a dot matrix printer to tape to the back of their car so everyone can see their virtue. You can see the virtue signaling on the schools where kids are just supposed to go there and learn. That's all they're supposed to be doing there is learning, reading, writing, arithmetic, the ability to write, all that sort of stuff. And they're just inundated with it and bombarded with it. Because my wife and I were contemplating the idea. My wife works remote. I could possibly work remote. What if we came up here and we did the small town USA Americana lifestyle that I had when I was a kid? And I really enjoyed it. I ain't going up there. There's no way. There's no way. Possibly New Hampshire, maybe up to Maine. I know there's pockets of it up there where we can get that rural life and that small town USA life. But I think if we were to do it, we're going to go to Georgia, to be honest with you. There's good mountain life up there. There's small towns there. Yeah, there's Tennessee as well. We kind of want that small town life again. But sorry, Vermont, it ain't going to be you. That was jaw dropping. Now let's go further. What this decades of liberal and further liberal running, because they're not quite California, but they try to be like California quite a bit. So there are no, I mean, they technically have a Republican as a governor right now. That guy can't run as a Republican in any other state other than Vermont. I don't know if you guys know anything about it. I mean, the guy was in lockdown mode like crazy. He's no Republican. But anyway, they have Democrats and progressives. That's really all they have there. So that is to say, they have high crime. The drugs have moved in. It's really taken down these small communities. There's no business, there's no industry because they shut everything down and they've strangled themselves for to keep it as liberal as possible. So they have very, very, very high taxes. And at the same time, to keep anything from changing Vermont. And you know what? More power to you, Vermont. If that's the way you guys want to do it, you want high taxes and no industry, but you like your liberal policies, okay, you do you. Here I am, the top down dictator that I'm out here saying that I want Vermont to live the way that I live down here in Florida. Or I can just stay down here in Florida and say, Vermont, you're beautiful, but I won't be coming back. I'm crazy like that. I'm a crazy guy. That is going to be that for Vermont. Thank you for taking the trip down memory lane and getting nostalgic with me and just really understanding that these pockets can just become a death spiral that just gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And that's why we have to stay on top of things. And we need to do things like vote. And I told you I'd be beating you over the head with this. I have great news coming out of the great state of Georgia. You might remember Jim Crow 2.0, Jim Crow in the 21st century because of the voter integrity laws, where the reality was they actually made it easier to vote and harder to cheat. They extended how long early voting went. They added days to early voting, but you had to put your digits, last four, I believe, of your license on your absentee ballot. Bring it in. It's a death to democracy. It's a death to democracy. They're shutting down the minority vote, or they're setting records. They were setting records during the primary, during the spring. We didn't hear from Biden. We didn't hear from mainstream media then talking about how it was a death to democracy. And now, on the first day of early voting, they shattered by 30,000 votes, from 70,000 to 100,000 people got to vote early. I'm not an early voting proponent. I want everybody to have as much access to voting as possible. I think that voting this far out, I don't think is a good idea because a lot can kind of change in between. I would like it to be done sooner. I'm open to a conversation about how much time that might be. Again, you know me. I'm out here to just force myself on everybody. No conversations to be had. But voting integrity laws are in place, and even more of them are on the ballot. So they're already working. States at the local level, because we're federalists and we love our federalism. We love our local elections. We love voting for things that impact me every day. They're on the books. They're adding more as part of this election cycle. You're going to get out and vote. Why? Because we're going to make that huge statement. Huge. A little throwback for you. Huge statement. It's working. Good things are happening because of the voter integrity laws. You have the confidence. You know it's going to work. You're going to vote. And to steal this from a friend of mine, Victor Nieves, if you catch the show tonight, bring a friend. This young man said, not only do you vote, don't vote alone. Bring a friend. Find out if you're registered. Find out what you have to do to get registered. We need to make the huge statement. Huge. You'll remember after Roe, and after some supposed wins by Biden, where he got to spend more money under the Inflation Reduction Act, which doesn't actually tackle inflation, but he got a big boost. And all of a sudden, these races started to close up in August and into September, started looking like we were still going to take the House. Senate was maybe a 50-50 and could lose a couple of seats, but at least we were going to get one chamber. Now, gas prices went back up. Inflation continues to go on. Your 401k is worth nothing. And people's money is worth less and people are completely unsure. You can keep telling us, you can eat your ice cream, Joe Biden, and tell me that the economy is great. You can compare it to other nations. I don't care if other nations have high inflation. I live in America, and in America, we have high inflation. In America, you're the guy in the seat, and I want to know what you're going to do to lower inflation. Don't tell me it's lower inflation than it is in another country. I don't care what it is in that country. And by the way, you have to understand that what happens in America trickles out and happens to the rest of the world. I heard a great saying from a friend of mine who was actually European from Germany, and he had told me, America sneezes and the world catches a cold. That's how much influence we have on everything. America sneezes and the world catches a cold. When our economy is hurt, everyone's economy is hurt. So, okay, Joe, yeah, everybody's economy is hurting. Doesn't mean that it's okay somehow now. Folks still can't afford things that they could afford a year ago. They're pinching. The rent is still going up because of inflation, because of the free money you pumped into the market. Now the free money has run out, but the demand is still there and the supply side isn't. Speaking of which, we still have a supply and demand issue, which Democrats understand, but prey on those who do not understand. And by this, I mean they're releasing more oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which isn't even a Band-Aid. It's smoke and mirrors. It's purely smoke and mirrors to keep investors from dumping and, from buying up oil, increasing the demand and driving the price up. This oil is coming out of our reserve. So yes, should any bad guys do anything, our reserve is a lot lower than it should be. And of course, the world knows it. Also, we have to backfill that oil at a greater cost. But that's fine because we have the smoke and mirrors that makes the regular everyday Americans who don't really want to know the machinations of what's going on behind the curtain. They don't want to peek behind the curtain. They just know what the cost is at the pump. And I completely understand that. Folks are trying to get gas in the car to go to work, to make enough money in order to take care of their family. They don't have the time or energy or want and or desire to really look at the machinations that are going on behind the scenes. I don't blame them because it's full of liars. It's full of liars who are lying to your face on TV with the media, who are just absolutely covering for them because, God forbid, we see the effects of the Biden administration's energy policy. When you cut drilling in Anwar, when you cut drilling in other Gulfs up in Alaska, when you cut drilling in the Gulf Coast, when you shut down a pipeline, you affect supply. And when supply goes up, coupled with free money in the market, demand goes up, supply didn't go up, price goes through the roof. And then Biden says it's Putin's price hike. We haven't heard that in a while because the price was going down. Why? Because the price got so high that demand went down. And then the administration wants to say, hey, look, we lowered the prices. We can't tell you how. Ignore the man behind the curtain. But we totally did. But it wasn't us. But it was us. And now they want to say that the oil companies are price gouging you. Gavin Newsom is telling you that the oil companies are price gouging you. He goes on to say, every state has state tax. We have 54 cents. We were paying $2.50 more a gallon than everybody else. You leave out the cap and trade tax. You leave out the local tax. You leave out all these other taxes that I can't even remember. You are the reason the gas is so high, and you go up there and you lie by omission, which is my worst type of lie. I can't stand the lying by omission because you're also telling the people you're talking to that you're stupid. You're saying, I know that you don't know this. So if I leave it out, you're not going to know it because you're stupid. So I get to tell you you're stupid while I'm lying to your face. And one, they're going to use that soundbite where they're going to cut that out and say, I know you're stupid. They're going to use that against me. One day somebody's going to use that. We were talking about how his candidate up in New Hampshire, Baldock, former general, correct? He was taken out of context and they're just running this tiny little soundbite, which is an absolute joke. But it's happened to me too, but it is what it is. I don't really care. I like to do this for fun. You have this smoke and mirror show going on. It's to keep the market from freaking out. It's to keep the prices from going through the roof. Biden, of course, went to OPEC, said, please keep the pumps on. I've turned mine off, but I need you to go ahead and keep yours on. And OPEC said, screw that. We're going to cut 2 million barrels a day. So good luck with that. So he just releases more from the reserve, which makes it look like there's enough on the market, which keeps the markets from going crazy. Why? Because we're about to go into the midterms. God forbid people see the effects of their policy. That's what this is all about. So they're running on smoke and mirrors, and they're also running on the age-old, you're racist. And man, did Tim Ryan step into it up in Ohio. I don't know if you saw this one, but when he got backed into a corner because he's been backing Biden nonstop since I think he's moving from the House. He's trying to run for the Senate. He votes with Biden 96% of the time. And he said the old, you're racist to JD Vance, who said, there you go. You done stepped in it. I have 3 biracial children, and this man can't not call me a racist. And my 3 biracial children are facing so much heat because of the hatred that comes from the left when they have to run to their go-to, you're a racist. Well, you done effed up. You done effed up right there. I can't believe he absolutely stepped in it. He's got to know that this man's wife is of Indian descent and so are his children. That might turn some folks off. That might bump them right there. Just going to the well one too many times. Maybe, I don't know. You know what? Since we're up in that region, we got Pennsylvania right next door. And you got Fawn Jetterman. I'm Fawn Jetterman, and I approve this message. And when he becomes Dr. Jetterman, then he'll be president. This is how the man talks. I don't know if anybody has seen this man actually talk in real time. And he does, you know how you get politicians and they say, and we have to do this now, right? And they sort of go up in their inflection. And then the crowd goes, yeah, I know I'm supposed to clap now. Yeah. So he doesn't know how to do that. And so he'll do things like, let's say the statement is, and I'm here to win your vote, right? So it should go, and I'm here to win your vote, right? You go up at the end and then everybody, yeah. So this is John Fetterman. He'll say, I'm Fetterman John, and I'm here to win, and I vote, and I'm gonna. He does that. That's exactly what he does. And you should be able to say, and together we can do this. And I am together. We can do this. The guy's all over the place with this inflection. There's something wrong with the guy. I want the guy to be healthy. I know this has been covered by a lot of other people, the idea about how they've taken the idea that he's done no interviews, then put his difficulties on full display. That way they would, quote, be pounced upon by Republicans so they could have the ready-made answer ready to go. You're an ableist, right? Can't call you a racist for not liking this guy because he's the patriarchy. He's the cisgender straight white male. So we didn't ist. What's the ist? Let's get him on ableist. No, the man's not fit for office. That man is not fit for office. You folks, I would think, would want someone to go to DC who has their faculties about them. We actually have a whole amendment for the president, should they not be able to discharge the duties based on the lack of their faculties, that they would then be removed by the cabinet. So I kind of think you'd want that when you go to DC. The man doesn't have his faculties. He was reading supposedly the question off of the screen. I think he was reading the answer off of the screen, but it's not like he's Biden in his basement where you can see a reflection of his teleprompter. But anyway, he's not reading the question. He is absolutely reading the answer. Listen, let's sort of wrap it up. We've got about a minute and a half here. These races are a lot better than I think we were thinking. I told you in previous episodes, the media and the pollsters were trying to affect change. They weren't trying to report on the pulse of the nation. They were trying to change the perception of the nation. And it was working for a little bit. But folks still have to put gas in their car. Folks still need to put food on the table. And they see how expensive it is over and over. And Biden can play his games with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, and he could do whatever he wants to try to keep these prices down. Folks are not as stupid as they think they are. Folks know what is going on. They might not be as vocal and loud about it, but they're going to be very loud come November. You're going to get out and vote. We're going to make this statement. If I get one person to go vote that said they weren't going to vote, it's all going to be worth it. It's all going to be worth it. We have to get out and vote. We are the new grassroots. Me and you. This is how we do it. We have this small channel. We have this small audience, but we're here. We're here together. We're going to tell our friends that we are going to go out and vote. We have to make a huge statement. We have to stop the liberals. We have to stop the leftists. We have to stop the socialists. We can do that. We are going to do that. That was a great show, Juan. I'm glad we were able to do this tonight. You know you can find me every Thursday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on Right America Media, and I will see you all next week. Have a good night.